29th, 2010, and I am interviewing Jerry Phelps. Jerry Phelps is 55 years old. He was born on October 5th, 1955. My name is Cheyenne, Irvine,
and Larkin,
and we will be the interviewers. Jerry Phelps is our grandpa. Grandpa, could you state for the recording what war and branch of service you served in?
I was in during the Vietnam War, and I was in the United States Marine Corps.
What was your rank?
Sergeant E5.
Where did you serve?
I served overseas at Iwakuni, Japan.
How many years were you in the service?
3.5.
So you served in the Marines. Where were you living at the time?
I was living in Wisconsin when I went into the Marine Corps.
How did you happen to serve in this war?
Restate the question, please.
How did you happen to serve in this war?
As far as actually in combat, my unit was never called over to Vietnam. We worked in support of operations there.
What were you doing before you drafted or enlisted?
I worked in a shoe factory and in tobacco fields up in Wisconsin.
Did anyone else in your family serve in the military?
3 of my 4 brothers all served in the military. 1 retired from the Air Force, 1 was in the Marine Corps, 1 was in the Army, and my father was in the Army and Air Force.
Can you tell me about adapting to military life, physical regimen, barracks, food, social life?
Well, adapting to the military for a 17-year-old wasn't a bad thing. The food really wasn't that good. And as far as social life, there really wasn't a lot of social life back when I was in.
How did you choose the branch of service you served in?
I looked at all the different branches before I enlisted, and the Marine Corps to me offered me the most opportunity.
What kind of training did you have?
I went through rifle range type training, combat training, several different types of training like that.
Were there any friendships formed?
There's always friendships formed, but I've not been in contact with anybody that I served with.
Where did you serve?
I served in Iwakuni, Japan. I served at Headquarters Marine Corps in Arlington, Virginia, and I also served in California 2 different times, a helicopter base in Santa Ana, California, and Camp Pendleton in Oceanside, California, and San Diego.
Action or duties away from home?
Repeat the question, please.
Action or duties away from the front line?
I worked in support of a Marine Air Wing where we had helicopters and fighter jets.
How did you stay in touch with those back home?
By letters.
What did you do for recreation of off-duty activities?
Well, I got a bicycle and I would go on bicycle rides and go for walks, and that was pretty much it.
Were you still overseas when the war ended? Where were you?
No, before the war ended, I come back and was stationed at Santa Ana Helicopter Base, El Toro, California.
How did you return home?
I returned home from overseas by plane, and when I was discharged out of service, then I drove home with my family.
Reception by family or community?
Reception was well.
How hard was it to return to civilian life?
The return for me to civilian life wasn't a bad thing. I didn't have problems finding a job. I did find that a lot of the skills that you obtain in the military, depending on what occupation you're in, is not necessarily transferable in the civilian world.
Are you a member on any veterans organization?
The American Legion.
Any contact with fellow veterans?
I have contact with fellow veterans every day. Not the veterans that I served with, but I work for the Department of Veterans Affairs, so I have contact with veterans every day.
How has being in the military affected your life?
It has affected my life in the sense that I have gained the responsibility and stability, and it gives you the sense of pride that I've served my country and would do it again if I had to.
Did you learn any lessons?
If this was a lesson, and it may not be considered that, is I think that the military is a good thing for all young people.
Are there any stories you might want to share?
I don't really have any stories other than every place that I served while I was in, some harder than others, but every place that I was a good thing. I mean, I appreciated the people I worked with and the people that I worked beside.